The training station hung in the cold dark of space like a metal seed waiting to grow warriors. Inside its walls, young soldiers from 12 different species learned to fight, to kill, and to survive. They came from worlds of ice and fire, from planets with 3 suns and moons made of crystal. They were the best their peoples could offer, and they knew it. Commander stood before the new group of trainees. His scales caught the light as he moved, and his 4 eyes swept across the room with cold judgment. He had trained hundreds of soldiers. Most of them were dead now. Such was the nature of war against the Hollow, the enemy that ate stars and left nothing behind. "You will learn here or you will die out there," said. His voice was like gravel scraping metal. "There is no middle path, no second chances. The Hollow do not care about your home world or your family name. They consume all." The trainees stood straight. There were 30 of them, warriors with their bone armor growing from their skin, soldiers whose bodies could shift like water, fighters with arms as thick as tree trunks, and others, each species proud and strong. Then there was the human. She sat in the corner of the room. She was small, even for her kind. Her hair was dark and fell across her face like a curtain. In her hands was a worn notebook, and she was drawing something with a soft pencil. Her fingers moved in gentle strokes across the paper. Kay, a trainee with sharp bone ridges above his eyes, noticed her first. He elbowed his companion and pointed with a low laugh. "Look," he said, "the Alliance sent us an artist." The others turned to look. The human did not look up from her notebook. She kept drawing, her pencil making soft sounds against the paper. "Maybe she will draw pictures of us to scare the Hollow away," another trainee said. This was Aura, her liquid body rippling with amusement. More laughter followed. The human still did not look up. Commander watched this happen. His expression did not change, but something moved behind his 4 eyes. He said nothing to stop the mockery, and he said nothing to defend the human. He simply turned and continued his speech about the training that would begin the next day. When the introduction ended, the trainees were sent to their quarters. The human walked alone, her notebook held close to her chest. The others moved past her as if she was not there, some bumping her shoulder without apology. Her name was Maya. She was 43 years old by Earth counting, though she looked younger. She had been sent by the Human Military Council, and her orders were simple: watch, learn, record. No one had told the other trainees what she really was. That night in her small room, Maya opened her notebook. The pages were filled with drawings, but they were not pretty pictures or pleasant scenes. They were faces. Hundreds of faces drawn in careful detail. Under each face was a name, a date, and a cause. Lieutenant Saul, crushed by falling debris, Sector 7. Private of Clan, blood loss from shrapnel wounds, the Battle of Quiet Moon. Commander. Maya stopped at that page. The commander's face was there, drawn with the same soft pencil strokes as all the others, but there was no date under his name yet, no cause of death. The space was blank, waiting to be filled. Maya closed her eyes. When she opened them again, they had changed. The brown of her irises had become something else, something that moved and shifted like smoke trapped in glass. She looked at nothing and everything at the same time. Then her hand moved. The pencil touched the paper below the commander's face. Ship explosion, training station terminus, date. Her hand stopped. The smoke in her eyes faded and they were brown again. She looked down at what she had written and let out a slow breath. "Not yet," she whispered to herself, "but soon." She turned to a fresh page and began to draw again. This time it was Kay, the who had laughed at her. His bone ridges came to life under her pencil. His cruel smile took shape on the paper. Under his face she wrote his name. Then she wrote the date. It was 5 days from now. She wrote the cause: training accident, live fire exercise. Maya closed the notebook and placed it under her pillow. She did not sleep that night. She rarely did anymore. The humans called her gift the sight. It had appeared when she was 7 years old, after a fever that nearly killed her. When she woke from that fever, she could see things that others could not. She could see the thread of death that hung around every living thing. And when she drew a face, the details came to her like whispers from somewhere far away. The Human Military Council had found her when she was 12. They had tested her, studied her, and eventually trained her, not as a soldier, as something else, something more valuable. A death mapper. In every war, knowing when and how your soldiers would die was the greatest advantage. It let commanders change plans, move troops, avoid disasters, and Maya had been right every single time. Over 3,000 predictions, not one mistake. But there was a cost. Maya had learned long ago that she could not save everyone. The sight showed her what would happen if nothing changed, and sometimes, no matter what you did, death found its way. She had tried to save her brother once. She had seen his death in a car accident and had done everything to prevent it. She had hidden his keys, begged him to stay home, even made herself sick so he would have to care for her. He had died anyway, a different car, a different road, the same date she had written in her notebook. Some deaths could be moved, others were fixed points that could not be changed. Maya did not know yet which kind of deaths awaited the trainees on the station, but she would find out. That was why she was here. The next morning, training began. The trainees gathered in a large room with metal walls and floors marked with combat lines. Weapons hung on racks along the walls, and holographic targets flickered in the air. Kay stood near the front, his bone armor catching the light. He was talking loudly to the others about his combat record, about the enemies he had killed before coming to the station. Maya stood in the back corner with her notebook. She was drawing again, her pencil moving in soft strokes. Aura slid over to her, her liquid body forming a face that looked almost human but not quite. "What are you drawing, little human?" Aura asked. Her voice was like water flowing over stones. Maya did not answer, she kept drawing. "I asked you a question." Aura's body rippled with annoyance. "Are you deaf or just stupid?" "Neither," Maya said quietly. She still did not look up. "Then answer me." Maya's pencil stopped. She looked up at Aura, and for just a moment, something passed through her eyes. Something that made the liquid alien feel cold for the first time in her life. "I am drawing your death," Maya said. Her voice was soft, almost kind. "You will have 143 more years. You will die old and warm, surrounded by your offspring. It will be peaceful." Aura stood frozen. She did not know how to respond to such a strange thing. Then Maya smiled, a small and sad smile. "You are lucky. Most are not so fortunate." She returned to her drawing, and Aura backed away slowly. She did not bother Maya again that day, but she also did not tell the others what the human had said. She was not sure why. Perhaps she was afraid of what they would think of her for being unsettled by such a small and soft creature. Perhaps she was afraid it was true. The days on training station terminus moved in a strict rhythm. Wake at the first bell, train until the body screamed for rest, sleep, repeat. Commander pushed them all without mercy, and many trainees fell behind. Those who fell too far were sent home in shame. Maya kept pace with the physical training better than anyone expected. She was not strong or fast by the standards of most species, but humans had something the others did not understand. They called it endurance. Where it would charge at full power and then need rest, Maya would simply keep moving at a steady pace that never stopped. Hour after hour. She did not complain. She did not ask for breaks. And she never stopped drawing. Every night after the others had collapsed into their beds, Maya sat with her notebook. More faces appeared on the pages. More names, more dates, more causes. She drew the fighter named, who bragged about his strength every chance he got. Under his face, she wrote a date 2 months away. Heroic sacrifice, buying time for evacuation of civilian transport. She drew the small trainee called Click 7, whose people communicated in sounds most species could not hear. His date was far away, over 100 years in the future. Natural causes, home world, at peace. She drew them all one by one. Some would die soon, some would die old. Some would die in glory and some would die in fear. The sight did not judge, it simply showed what would be. On the fourth day, Commander called the trainees together for a special exercise. They stood in a wide chamber that had been set up to look like the ruins of a city. Broken buildings rose from the metal floor, and smoke effects made the air thick and hard to see through. "Today you learn to work as a unit," said. "The Hollow do not fight alone. They swarm, they coordinate. If you cannot match them, you will die alone and forgotten." He divided the trainees into teams of 5. Maya was placed with K, Aura, a named, and a thin creature called X whose species Maya did not recognize. K made a sound of disgust when he saw his team. "The artist," he said, looking at Maya. "What use is she? She will get us all killed." "Perhaps she will draw us a victory," said with a rumbling laugh. Maya said nothing. She put her notebook away and picked up the training weapon that had been assigned to her. It was a simple stun rifle, the kind given to beginners. "Just stay out of our way, human," Kay said. "Point the weapon and try not to shoot us." The exercise began. The team moved into the fake ruins, searching for the holographic enemies that would appear at any moment. Kay took the lead, his bone armor making him feel invincible. Aura flowed beside him, her body shifting to avoid obstacles. Stomped behind them like a living tank. X stayed close to Maya in the rear, his large eyes watching everything. The first enemies appeared from behind a broken wall. 3 holographic hollow soldiers, their forms dark and shifting like oil given shape. K roared and charged at them, his training weapon firing rapid shots. 2 of the holograms fell. The third slipped past him and turned toward the rest of the team. Maya raised her weapon and fired a single shot. It hit the hologram directly in its center, and the false enemy disappeared. No one noticed. They were too busy celebrating K's 2 kills. More enemies came. The team pushed forward, driven by K's aggressive pace. He wanted to finish the course faster than any other team. He wanted everyone to see his strength. Maya watched him and felt a heaviness in her chest. 5 days. That was all he had left, and she could not tell him. She had learned long ago that telling people their death date only made things worse. They either did not believe and grew angry, or they believed and fell apart. Either way, the death still came. They reached the center of the ruined city, where the final objective waited. A holographic generator that they had to disable. But something was wrong. Maya could feel it in her bones, that cold sensation that came when the sight was trying to tell her something. "Wait," she said. Kay ignored her and moved forward. "Wait," Maya said again, louder this time. "Shut up, human," Kay snapped. "We are almost done. I will not let your fear slow us down." He stepped through a doorway. The trap activated. Not a hologram this time. A real trap, built into the training course to catch teams that moved too fast without checking. A gravity snare, designed to pin trainees in place for a few seconds as a lesson in caution. But the snare malfunctioned. Instead of pinning K gently, it crushed down on him with 10 times the normal force. His bone armor cracked. He screamed, a terrible sound that echoed through the ruined city. "Help!" shouted, "Someone help!" Maya was already moving. She dropped her weapon and ran to the control panel built into the nearby wall. Her hands moved across the buttons with a speed and precision that no one would have expected from the quiet artist. "What are you doing?" Aura demanded. "We need to pull him free." "If you pull him now, his spine will snap," Maya said. Her voice was calm, focused. "The pressure must be released first, slowly, or he dies." "How do you know that?" Maya did not answer. Her fingers kept working. The gravity snare hummed and groaned, and then slowly it began to release. Kay fell forward, gasping and shaking. His bone armor was cracked in 3 places, and his body was covered in bruises that were already turning dark. But he was alive. Commander arrived with medical staff moments later. He looked at the damaged gravity snare, then at Maya, who stood quietly near the control panel with her hands at her sides. "Who disabled the trap?" asked. "The human," X said in his thin voice. She knew exactly what to do. His 4 eyes fixed on Maya. She met his gaze without flinching. "How did you know?" he asked. "I read the station's technical manuals," Maya said, "all of them." This was true. What she did not say was that she had read them because she knew Kay would die on this station, in a training accident in 5 days. She had been trying to find a way to change it, and today she had found one. The gravity snare. That was supposed to be his death, crushed by the malfunction, alone because his team could not figure out how to free him. But Maya had changed it. She had read every manual, studied every system, and been ready when the moment came. Kay would live. His death had been moved, not erased, but moved. He would die somewhere else, some other time, in some other way. Maya did not know when or how. The site did not show her the new path yet. But at least it would not be today. Kay was taken to the medical bay. The other trainees were dismissed, and they walked back to their quarters in stunned silence. What had happened was not supposed to happen. Equipment on a military training station did not malfunction like that. Someone would investigate. Someone would ask questions. Maya returned to her room and opened her notebook. She turned to Kay's page and looked at the death date she had written. It was gone. In its place was a blank space, waiting to be filled. The new date would come to her eventually. The site always showed her in time. She turned to a fresh page and began to draw again. This time, it was one of the maintenance workers she had passed in the hallway, a tired who worked the night shift and always smelled like engine oil. She drew his face with care. She wrote his name, and then the date came to her, flowing through her pencil like water through a pipe. Tomorrow. Maya closed her eyes and let out a long breath. Tomorrow this worker would die, and she did not know if this death could be changed or not. That was the hardest part of her gift, knowing that death was coming but not knowing if anything could stop it. She would try anyway. She always did. Because that was what humans did. They fought against the dark, even when the dark was certain to win. They raged against death, even when death was written in stone. And sometimes, just sometimes, they won. The maintenance worker's name was in. Maya found this out by watching him from a distance, learning his routines and listening to the other workers talk. He was old for his liquid body moving slower than the younger members of his species. He had worked on the station for 20 years, keeping the engines running and the lights on. Tomorrow, according to the site, he would die in an engine room accident. A coolant line would rupture. The chemical spray would dissolve his body in seconds. Maya spent the morning trying to find a way to change it. She studied the engine room layouts. She checked the maintenance schedules. She looked for anything that might give her a chance to save him. But some deaths were fixed points. The more she looked, the more certain she became that this was one of them. Every path she imagined led to the same end. If she warned him, he would check the line himself and die. If she reported the line as faulty, he would be the one sent to repair it and die. If she sabotaged something else to keep him away, another crisis would pull him back. The universe wanted In dead, and it would find a way. Maya sat alone in the observation deck that night, looking out at the stars. Her notebook was open on her lap, but she was not drawing. She was just sitting with the weight of knowing. "You look troubled, human." She turned. Commander stood behind her, his 4 eyes catching the light of distant suns. "May I sit?" he asked. Maya nodded. Lowered himself onto the bench beside her. For a long moment he said nothing. They both just looked at the stars. I have read your file, said finally. The official version. It says you are an observer sent by Earth to study Alliance training methods. That is what it says, Maya agreed. But I have also read the classified addendum, the one that only station commanders can access. Maya's hands tightened on her notebook. I see. Death Mapper said. The words hung in the air between them. I did not know humans could produce such individuals. My people have legends of seers who could glimpse the weave of fate, but they are only legends. You are real. I am real, Maya said, for whatever that is worth. The addendum says you have never been wrong. Over 3,000 predictions, all accurate. I do not predict. I see what will happen if nothing changes. Sometimes things can change. Sometimes they cannot. Was quiet for a moment. Then he asked, have you seen my death? Maya looked at him. In the dim light of the stars, his scales looked almost silver. Yes, she said. Will you tell me? No. Made a sound that might have been a laugh. Fair enough. I'm not sure I want to know anyway. They sat in silence again, then spoke once more. The trainee today, K, the gravity snare malfunction, that was supposed to be his death, was it not? Yes. And you changed it. I moved it. His death will come again somewhere else, but not today, not like that. Nodded slowly. You carry a heavy burden, Maya. I do not envy you. No one does. Is there anything I can do to help? Maya thought about the old maintenance worker who would die tomorrow no matter what she did. She thought about all the fixed deaths she had seen over the years, all the people she could not save. No, she said, but thank you for asking. Most commanders do not. Rose to leave, but he stopped and looked back at her. I served with humans once, he said. In the third wave campaign against the Hollow, there was a human captain named. She was small like you. The other species mocked her at first, just as the trainees mock you now. What happened? She led a charge into a hollow nest to save a group of trapped civilians. She knew she would not survive. She went anyway. She held the line for 47 minutes alone while the civilians escaped. His voice was heavy with respect. When we found her body, she was still fighting. Her weapons were empty. She was using her bare hands. Maya nodded. She had heard stories like this before. Humans did not know when to stop. They did not know how to accept death without a fight. Captain died a hero, said. But more importantly, she lived like one. Whatever you see in your visions, Maya, remember that the moment of death is only one part of a life. What matters more is how we spend the moments before. He left her alone with the stars. The next day, died. Maya was in the training hall when it happened, going through combat drills with the other trainees. She felt the moment his life ended, a cold snap in the back of her mind like a thread being cut. She kept training. She did not cry. She had stopped crying for the fixed deaths long ago. But that night in her room, she opened her notebook to his page. She looked at his face, drawn with her soft pencil strokes. She looked at his name and his death date. Then she added one more line, something she did not usually do. In of the 20 years of service, kept the lights on, kept the engines running, died at his post. It was not much, but it was something. A small record that he had existed, that his life had mattered, that someone remembered him. Maya closed the notebook and slept. The days continued. Training grew harder. The trainees who had survived the first weeks began to form real bonds, the kind that came from suffering together. They complained about the food. They cursed Commander's name. They fought and argued and sometimes laughed. And slowly, so slowly that no one noticed at first, they stopped mocking Maya. It started with Aura. The liquid alien had not forgotten what Maya had told her about her death, the 143 years of life that awaited her. She began sitting near Maya during meals, not talking, just being present. Then X joined them. He had seen Maya save K, and he had started watching her more closely. He noticed how she moved through the training exercises with a strange kind of awareness, always seeming to know where danger would come from. "You see things," X said to her one day, his thin voice almost too quiet to hear. "Things that have not happened yet." "Yes," Maya said. "My people have a word for ones like you, grief carriers, those who must hold the sorrow of knowing." Maya nodded. "That is a good name for it." "How do you bear it?" Maya thought about the question. It was one she had asked herself many times. "I think of the deaths I can change," she said. "The lives I can save, even if it is only a few, even if most deaths are fixed and cannot be moved. The few that can be changed make the rest bearable." X considered this. Then he said, "My people also believe that grief shared is grief halved. If you ever need to share, I will listen." It was the kindest thing anyone on the station had said to her. "Thank you," Maya said, and she meant it. Even K began to change. His near-death experience had cracked something in him, something beyond his bone armor. He was quieter now, less quick to boast. He still did not speak to Maya directly, but he no longer mocked her. Sometimes she caught him watching her with something like confusion in his eyes. He was trying to understand how a small human with a notebook had saved his life, when his own strength had failed him. He would never fully understand, but at least he was trying. 2 weeks into the training, Commander called Maya to his office. She went without question, her notebook under her arm as always. "I have received new orders," said. "A hollow incursion has been detected 3 systems away. It is small, a scouting force. Command wants to send a team of trainees to engage it under supervision, a real combat mission." Maya felt the cold settle into her bones. "When?" "4 days." "Who will be going?" Handed her a list. It contained 15 names. Maya scanned them quickly. K was on the list, so was Aura, so was X, so was Maya herself. "Command specifically requested your presence," said. "They want to see how you perform in a real engagement. They want to know if your abilities work against the hollow." Maya nodded slowly. She had known this would come eventually. The military had not sent her here just to watch. They wanted to use her as a weapon. She looked down at the list again. 15 trainees going into battle against the hollow. How many would come back? She would find out soon enough. The site was already stirring, already showing her glimpses of what was to come. Fire, darkness, screaming. And death, so much death. Maya spent the next 4 days preparing, not her body that was already as ready as it would ever be. She prepared her mind. She prepared her notebook. Every night, she drew the faces of the 15 trainees who would go on the mission. She drew their features carefully, capturing each detail, and she waited for the site to show her their fates. Some came quickly. They would survive. His date was far away, decades in the future. He would die old, surrounded by, telling them stories of the war. Click 7, though, would also survive. His people lived for centuries, and his thread stretched far beyond this mission. But others were not so fortunate. There was a trainee named, a tall creature with 4 arms and skin like bark. His death date was the day of the mission. Hollow spike through chest, first contact. There was a trainee named Lyra who came from a water world and wore a suit that kept her gills moist. Her death date was also the day of the mission. Explosion, ship breach, vacuum exposure. Maya wrote them all down. She counted the deaths. 7 of the 15 would die on this mission. Almost half. She looked for ways to change the deaths, just as she had with K. She studied mission reports from previous hollow engagements. She memorized the standard tactics, the common mistakes, the things that got soldiers killed. Some of the deaths she could see paths around. The one who would take a spike through the chest at first contact could be moved if she was standing in a different position, if she was watching for the right angle of attack, if she could give him a few extra seconds of warning. Others were fixed. Lyra's death came from a ship breach, and there was nothing Maya could do about the ship. That was beyond her control. But she would try anyway. She always did. The day of the mission arrived. The 15 trainees gathered in the hangar bay, checking their weapons and armor. They were nervous but trying not to show it. This was their first real battle. Some of them would prove themselves today. Some of them would die. Maya stood apart from the others, her notebook in a sealed pocket against her chest. She had memorized every face, every death, every possibility. She was as ready as she could be. Commander gave them a final speech. He told them to stay together, to follow orders, to remember their training. His 4 eyes lingered on Maya for a moment before he finished. "Come back alive," he said, "all of you." Maya knew that was impossible, but she appreciated the sentiment. The ship that carried them was called the Swift Edge. It was a small assault vessel, built for speed and quick strikes. The trainees strapped themselves into seats along the walls, and the ship launched into the darkness of space. The journey took 3 hours. Maya spent most of it with her eyes closed, going over the deaths in her mind. She saw the battle playing out, saw where the dangers would come from, saw which moments she might be able to change. When the ship dropped out of hyperspace, the Hollow were waiting. Not just a scouting force, not just a small incursion. A full assault fleet hidden behind the cover of a dead moon, 50 ships, thousands of Hollow soldiers. They had walked into a trap. "Evasive action," the ship's pilot screamed. The Swift Edge banked hard as Hollow weapons fire streaked past. The trainees were thrown against their restraints, shouting and cursing. Maya saw Lyra's face across the cabin. The Waterworld trainee looked terrified, her gills fluttering rapidly in her moisture suit. Ship breach, vacuum exposure. It was coming, Maya could feel it. "Everyone hold on," she shouted. "Port side, get away from the port side." Most of the trainees did not listen. They were too panicked, too confused. But Lyra heard her. She saw the intensity in Maya's eyes and something made her trust it. She unstrapped herself and scrambled toward the starboard side of the cabin. The Hollow weapon hit the port side 3 seconds later. The hull tore open. Air screamed out into the void. 2 trainees who had been sitting on the port side were pulled into space before anyone could react. Their screams cut off as they vanished into the dark. But Lyra was safe. She had moved just in time. The breach was sealed by emergency systems, but the damage was done. The Swift Edge was wounded, trailing smoke and sparks. The pilot fought to keep them alive as Hollow ships closed in from all sides. "We have to land," the commander of the mission shouted. He was an experienced officer named Captain, a distant relative of K. "There's a moon below us. We'll take cover there." The ship dove toward the moon's surface, Hollow fighters chasing them down. They crashed more than landed, the impact throwing everyone forward. Maya's head hit the seat in front of her, and for a moment, everything went black. When she woke, they were on the ground. The Swift Edge was a smoking wreck, half buried in dust. The surviving trainees were pulling themselves free, gathering weapons, trying to form some kind of defense. Maya counted heads, 12. 3 had died in the crash or the breach. One of them was Captain, his neck bent at an impossible angle. No commander, no ship, trapped on a dead moon with a Hollow fleet above them. "What do we do?" someone asked. It was the 4-armed trainee, the one who was supposed to die from a spike through the chest. That death had not happened yet. The moment of first contact had not come. Maya looked around. In the distance, she could see Hollow drop pods falling from the sky. Ground forces were coming. They had maybe 10 minutes before the enemy arrived. "We need to find cover," she said. Her voice was calm, steady. The other trainees looked at her with surprise. "There are caves in the cliffs to the north. We can defend them more easily than open ground." "How do you know there are caves?" Kay demanded. "I studied the survey maps of this moon before we left. I study everything." There was no time to argue. The trainees gathered what supplies they could and ran for the cliffs. Maya ran with them, her notebook still sealed against her chest, her mind running through every death she had seen. 6 more would die today. That was what the original site had shown her. But things had already changed. The crash had killed Captain, who had not been on her death list. The mission had gone wrong in ways even Maya had not expected. The futures were shifting. New deaths were being written. Old deaths were being erased. She could feel the site struggling to keep up, showing her flashes of possibilities that flickered and changed. It was disorienting, like trying to read a book whose words kept rearranging themselves. They reached the caves just as the first hollow soldiers landed. Maya saw them in the distance, dark shapes moving across the dust like oil spreading on water. They did not walk so much as flow, their bodies shifting and reforming with every step. "Defensive positions," Kay shouted. He had taken command in the absence of Captain, his bone armor making him the most protected among them. "Make them pay for every step." The trainees spread out along the cave entrance, weapons ready. Maya found a position near the 4-armed trainee. In her original vision, he had died early in the battle, a spike through the chest at first contact. That contact was coming now. The hollow charged. Maya watched. She watched the enemy. She saw the moment coming, the angle of attack that would kill him. A hollow soldier was targeting him specifically, its body forming into a spear-like projection as it ran. "Down," Maya screamed. Dropped without thinking. The spike passed through the air where his chest had been a moment before. Then Kay was there, smashing the hollow soldier with a powered fist, shattering its body into dissolving fragments. Stared at Maya with wide eyes. He did not know how she had seen it coming. He did not care. He was alive, and that was enough. The battle raged. The trainees fought with everything they had, and the hollow died by the dozens. But more kept coming, always more. Maya moved through the chaos like a ghost. She did not fight well, she was not built for combat, but she watched. She saw the deaths coming and shouted warnings when she could. A dodge here, a duck there, a shift in position that meant the difference between life and death. She could not save everyone. Some deaths came too fast to prevent. Some were fixed points that no warning could change, but she saved more than anyone expected. After an hour of fighting, the hollow pulled back. The trainees were exhausted, wounded, running low on ammunition, but they were still alive, 10 of them. Only 2 more had died, not 6, not even close to half. Maya sat against the cave wall, her hands shaking. She had never used the sight like this before, never pushed it so hard in the heat of battle. It had taken everything she had. Kay walked over to her. His bone armor was cracked and stained with hollow ichor. He looked at her for a long moment. "You saved my life," he said, "again. I saved everyone I could." "How?" Maya was too tired to lie. "I see death coming. Sometimes I can change it, sometimes I cannot." Kay stared at her. Then slowly he sat down beside her. "The others are calling you the Death Walker," he said. "They say you walk beside death and whisper to it. They say death listens to you. That is not how it works." "I know, but it is what they believe." He paused. "Thank you for saving me twice now." Maya nodded. She did not have the energy for more words. They rested, they waited, and somewhere above them the hollow fleet was deciding what to do next. The night cycle fell over the dead moon. The temperature dropped and the trainees huddled together for warmth inside the cave. They had managed to get a distress signal out before the Swift Edge's communications died completely. Help might be coming, or it might not. All they could do was wait. Maya did not sleep. She sat at the mouth of the cave, her notebook open on her lap, her soft pencil moving in the dim light. She was drawing again, not deaths this time. She was drawing something else. She drew the faces of the trainees who had survived. 10 faces, full of fear and hope and exhaustion. She drew them as they were now, alive and fighting. She wrote their names beneath each face, but she left the death dates blank. She did not want to know, not tonight. Tonight, she just wanted to remember them as they were. Aura flowed over to her, her liquid body catching the starlight. You should rest, Maya. You have done enough. I cannot rest, not yet. The Hollow have pulled back. They may not attack again until morning. They will attack again, I have seen it. Maya looked up at the stars, but not for a few hours, we have time. Aura settled beside her, her body forming into a roughly humanoid shape. You know, when we first met, I thought you were the weakest among us, a soft human with a notebook and nothing else. I remember. I was wrong, you are the strongest of all of us, not in body, in here. She touched where a heart would be if she had one. You carry all our deaths inside you and you still fight. I do not know how you do it. Maya smiled sadly. I do not know either, but humans have always been good at doing things we do not understand. We call it stubbornness. Aura made a sound like liquid bubbling. It was her version of laughter. I think I understand now why the Hollow fear your species more than any other. The Hollow fear us. My people have intercepted their communications. They call humans the unending. They say that no matter how many they kill, more keep coming. They say that humans do not know when to stop, do not know how to accept defeat. They say that fighting humans is like fighting an ocean that never stops pushing against the shore. Maya considered this. That is not a bad description of us. It is terrifying, to me at least, but I am glad you are on our side. The hours passed. The trainees took turns keeping watch while others slept. Maya stayed awake through all of it, drawing and watching and waiting. As the false dawn began to lighten the horizon, the Hollow attacked again. This time they came in force. Not just soldiers, but something larger, something that looked like a living siege engine made of the same oily darkness as the rest of them. It moved toward the cave, and the ground shook with each step. What is that thing? Asked, his massive hands gripping his weapon. A harvester, Maya said. The word came to her from somewhere deep, from a vision she had not consciously remembered until now. It is how they destroy fortified positions. It will flood the cave with its essence. Anyone inside will be consumed. Then we have to stop it before it reaches us, Kay said. But they did not have the firepower. Their weapons were almost empty. They were wounded and exhausted. The harvester would reach the cave, and when it did, they would all die. Unless... Maya's hand moved to her notebook. She flipped to a fresh page and began to draw. Not a face this time. A diagram. Lines and angles and distances flowing from her pencil like water. What are you doing? X asked. The cliff above the harvester, Maya said. There is a weakness in the rock, a fault line, if we can trigger a collapse. We don't have explosives, Kay said. We have power cells, from the weapons, if we overload them and place them in the right spots. She showed them the diagram. The trainees looked at it, then at each other. It could work, said slowly, but someone would have to climb up there and place the charges. The harvester would see them. It would kill them before they could finish. Unless someone else provided a distraction, Maya said. She stood up and checked her weapon. It had maybe 3 shots left, not enough to hurt the harvester, but enough to get its attention. Maya, no, Aura said, you cannot. I am the only one who can. The sight will show me when to move, when to dodge, when to run. I can stay alive long enough for the rest of you to bring down that cliff. She looked at them, these aliens who had mocked her just weeks ago. I need you to trust me. Kay stepped forward. His bone armor was cracked in a dozen places, but his eyes were clear. I trust you, he said. Tell us what to do. Maya gave them instructions, and Kay would climb the cliff with the overloaded power cells. Aura and X would provide covering fire. The others would hold the cave entrance. And Maya would walk out to meet the harvester. She did not tell them that she had seen her own death, finally, just a few moments ago. She did not tell them that the sight had shown her falling, consumed by darkness, swallowed by the harvester's essence. Some deaths could be changed, some could not. She did not know which kind this was. But she was going to find out. Maya walked out of the cave and into the dust of the dead moon. The harvester turned its vast attention toward her. She could feel its hunger, its need to consume, to end, to unmake. "Come on," she whispered. "Look at me, see me, fear me." She fired her first shot. It did nothing against the harvester's bulk, but it got its attention. The massive creature changed course, moving toward her instead of the cave. Maya ran. The sight screamed warnings in her head. Dodge left. Jump now. Roll. Keep moving. The harvester sent tendrils of darkness after her, and she avoided them by inches, by fractions of seconds, by margins so thin they should have been impossible. She was not fighting. She was dancing. Dancing with death itself, just as she had done every day since she was 7 years old. Above her on the cliff, and Kay placed the charges. The harvester did not notice. Its entire focus was on the small human who dared to challenge it. Maya fired her second shot, her third. Her weapon clicked empty. She threw it at the harvester and kept running. Her legs burned. Her lungs screamed. The sight was flickering, struggling to show her the path through so much danger. She stumbled and a tendril caught her leg. Pain, cold, darkness. The harvester's essence began to climb up her body, consuming her inch by inch. She felt herself starting to dissolve, felt her life unraveling at the edges. And then the cliff came down. Thousands of tons of rock fell upon the harvester. The creature screamed, a sound that shook the moon itself, and the tendril that held Maya snapped. She fell to the ground, half consumed but still alive. Aura reached her first. The liquid alien wrapped around her, holding her together, keeping her from falling apart completely. "Stay with us, Maya," Aura pleaded. "You saved us, now let us save you." Maya looked up at the sky. The sun was rising, if you could call it that. A distant star, cold and pale, but still a sun, still light. And in that light, she saw something that made her smile through the pain. Ships, Alliance ships, dropping out of hyperspace. The distress signal had worked. Help was here. "We made it," she whispered. The harvester was buried under the rockslide, dying or dead. The remaining hollow soldiers were scattering, fleeing from the approaching fleet. The battle was over. Maya closed her eyes. She woke in a medical bay, surrounded by soft lights and gentle beeping. Her body was wrapped in healing fields, slowly being rebuilt from the damage the harvester had done. Commander stood beside her bed. His 4 eyes were unreadable, but his voice was gentle. "You did the impossible, Maya. You brought them home, all of them." "How many?" Maya asked. Her voice was weak, barely a whisper. 10 survivors out of 15, 67%, the highest survival rate for any engagement against a hollow ambush in the history of the Alliance. He paused. "They are calling you a hero." Maya shook her head slowly. "I just did what I could, some I could not save." "You saved more than anyone thought possible, including yourself." He placed something on the bed beside her. It was her notebook, slightly scorched but intact. "The medics found this still sealed in your pocket. They thought you might want it back." Maya touched the worn cover, all those faces, all those deaths, all those lives she carried with her. "I have new orders for you," said. "When you recover, if you are willing." "What orders?" "The Alliance wants to create a new unit. Soldiers trained to work with someone like you, a team that can fight alongside death itself." He paused. "They want you to lead it." Maya looked at her notebook. She thought about all the deaths she had seen, all the ones she had changed and all the ones she could not. She thought about the weight of knowing, the burden of carrying all that sorrow. And then she thought about alive because she shouted a warning. Lyra, alive because she trusted Maya's instinct. Kay, alive twice over because Maya refused to let him die. "Yes," she said, "I will do it." Nodded. There was something like respect in his 4 eyes, and maybe something like fear too. "The other species mock humans," he said. "They call you soft and weak and fragile. They do not understand what you really are." "What are we?" "You are the ones who look death in the face and refuse to blink. You are the ones who carry the weight of ending and still fight for beginning. You are the most terrifying species in the galaxy, Maya. Not because you do not fear death, but because you fear it more than anyone else, and you fight it anyway." He turned and walked away, leaving Maya alone with her notebook and her thoughts. She opened it to a fresh page. She picked up a pencil that the medics had left beside her bed, and she began to draw. This time she drew a future, a team of warriors standing together, human and alien, fighting side by side. A galaxy where the hollow were pushed back, where life won against the darkness. It was not a vision. The sight did not show her good things, only endings. This was something else. This was hope. And hope, Maya had learned, was the most human thing of all. She finished the drawing and wrote a title beneath it, "The Unending." Then she closed the notebook, lay back against her pillow, and finally allowed herself to sleep. Outside the medical bay, the stars burned cold and bright. The hollow lurked in the darkness between them, hungry and patient. The war was far from over. But somewhere on that station, a small human with a worn notebook was dreaming of victory. And in a galaxy that had learned to fear human stubbornness, that was enough to make even death think twice.